And so I'll talk a little bit about World Transformation Day since Michael's mentioned. That wasn't part of my talk, but World Transformation Day came out 2 years ago on the 7th of April. It's the first Sunday of each April, actually. And a bunch of us got together a couple of years ago and said, you know what, who celebrates us? Who celebrates the people in this room? We have Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and Father's Day and Brother's Day and Sister's Day and all these great days. But where's the day that says, you know what, who are these people around the world that actually give themselves to the world? They better themselves to better the world. Nobody celebrates us. And so we created that. So again, hashtag WTD, hashtag World Transformation Day, and hashtag WTD Challenge. Just connect to us on any of those hashtags and you'll see the amazing work we're doing around the world. One of the projects that came out of this last year, we opened up a school in Delhi, in the biggest slum in Delhi, and it now runs a year later. They have had over 600 people a month showing up at different classes. We teach the slum kids and parents yoga, meditation, all self-funded by local sponsorship. Yoga, meditation, personal development, they get free mentoring, free coaching, they have public speakers coming along. All of these people volunteer their time to make a difference to that community. And the testimonials, the lives that are being changed. These are people that don't have access to this world. We take it for granted, right? Here's people that are finding out how they're going to pay for their food tomorrow, how they're going to keep the roof over their head. And we're teaching them about forgiveness. You know, the amount of abuse and the mess that goes on in those pockets around the world. And these kids are coming out sharing stories they've never ever had the opportunity to share before. And we now want to replicate that around the world, right? So I get to live the dream, if you like. I get to live really impacting the planet. So that if I die, even right now as I speak, I'm going to die with a smile on my face. Because I've managed to express myself in the world. Does that make sense? So although people talk about success as a thing to achieve, for me, and our previous speakers touched on it already, is about being. Being who? Being you. And not being restricted by your environment. Being restricted by what people might think of you, what they might say about you, or what your self-worth is, what your own limitations are. Breaking free of all of the barriers that we put in here that stop us from going out there and living our true, authentic lives. See, I believe that all of us that are in this room, that are willing to disrupt our lives and turn up at evening without really even knowing why we're turning up, just hoping that we can add more into ourselves, pour into ourselves, so we can go and pour into others, we're the people that really get this. And some of us get caught between getting it in here, but not being able to express it into the world. Does that make sense? And I feel super blessed that I've transitioned that barrier, if you like. And I don't do anything if it doesn't connect with why I'm here. So my only question, whenever anything lands on my table, is does this add value to the world? And does it take my message to more people so that when I disappear, the message lives on? Does that make sense? So it's about our legacy. What are we going to do collectively? And World Transformation Day is about that. It's about bringing us together as much as we do individually. Imagine what we can do collectively to really share with the world who we are, express ourselves freely, and impact the planet. Who's interested in that conversation? So listen, working on yourself, I have spent fortunes developing myself, going to courses, attending seminars, buying every cassette and every video that was available back in the day, and then buying every CD and DVD that was available, and going to every speaker seminar anywhere on the planet that I could get to. And I've been coached, mentored, and trained by some of the best in the world, and I count myself so lucky. And some of those people aren't even around anymore in the world, but they've passed their message on so that I could pass it on further. Does that make sense? And that for me is key. Passing your message on to people so that you leave them empowered enough to pass your message on further. Through them, right? Because the message is the same. Wisdom isn't new, although some people might have you believe it is, and you need to pay £10,000 to find out what it is. Wisdom is thousands of years old, and unfortunately it does get repackaged and resold at stupid prices with silly labels, but you know who you are inside. You know what your highest values are, what your highest priorities are, what's most important to you. Address those things. And yes, you might have fear stopping you, and yes, you might have internal conversations and dialogues about yourself that have you believe that you haven't got what it takes. I'll give you a very simple example. In my early days of transformation, I remember I did this most powerful course. Anyone heard of landmark education? Right, so I did this like in 1996, right? And I remember going to the landmark education, doing the forum, like 3-day course, coming out. I was ready to conquer the world. But one of my biggest things I hadn't conquered yet, having lost my dad when I was 23, I was now 26 when I did the forum, right? I lived 3 years in hell. Has anyone lived in hell before? Right. I lived 3 years in hell. I went bankrupt, as Michael said. I lost the love of my life, and the puppy love, that first love, from the age of 17 right through to 23. I just really made a mess of my life, disconnected from my family, my friends, and just a real 3 years of darkness of making a mess wherever I could go. Suddenly I walk into this room and realise what I was doing and why I was doing it. And I had an access to something that I didn't have access to before, access to personal power. I then realised that for 3 years, one of the most important people in my lives that I was destroying every single day was my mum, who I loved to bits, but I wasn't expressing that love. And so I live, we still do, extended family. I live with my younger brother. He's married with 3 kids. I'm single and living a great life. And my mum still lives with us. And we get the pleasure of being with this amazing woman. And she's just the most, those of you that have ever met her or, heard from her or seen her, she's one of the most amazing, enlightened, spiritual people on the planet. And for these 3 years where I gave her hell, and I'll tell you the kind of hell I gave her, you might be able to connect. I remember, I'd be going out, getting ready to go out clubbing or partying. I'd be ironing my shirt, spraying on the aftershave, and she'll say something like, "Calvin, are you going out?" And in my head I think, "Are you stupid? You think I'm doing this to watch TV?" I wouldn't say that. That's what I'm thinking, right? Like, am I going out? Of course I'm flipping going out. Do you see what I'm saying? And then as I'm leaving, she'll be like, "Make sure you got your jacket on, it's cold out there." I'm like, I'm 20-something years old. It's like, I live in England, lived all my life, I know it's flipping cold out there. I've got my jacket. I say, "Yes, Mum, I've got my jacket." That's what I'd say. But what I think was completely different. Is that making sense? Just make sure you lock the door. We lived in E7. Nobody leaves their door open in E7, right? Lock the door. I'm like, "Mum," like in my head, like, "Really? What do you take me for? Of course I'm going to lock the frigging door. It's Forest Gate, for God's sake." So nobody leaves their door. But that's what I say in my head. I say, "Yes, Mum, I'll lock the door." 4 or 5 in the morning, finish my night out, creeping in. There's no squeaky doors, no squeaky floorboards, but somehow the minute that key touches that key lock and turns, "Cal Pesci, you're home!" Oh my God, this woman gets on my nerves. Like she's been staying up all night, looking through the window with some telescope, watching me. It's like, how does she even know? What's she doing up at this? Like, it's like, what's going on? And I did this for years. Who can relate to stuff like that? Your version of it, right? Yeah. And for years I was doing this. And then I come out and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I suddenly saw it from a different perspective. I had what's called a paradigm shift. And I realised that's my mum saying to me, "I love you." And all along I was thinking, my mum never says "I love you" to me. And sometimes we miss what's right under our noses, don't we? Just because it's not being expressed or said or communicated in a way that we want it communicated doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Is this making sense? She's done nothing but love me, ever. Even when I was a complete twat. All she did was pour love on me and forgive me and put up with that rubbish, right? So then my first mission was, right, you know what, I'm just going to go home, hug my mum. I've never hugged my mum, right, all my life. Like, maybe when I was a kid, but not that I can remember. As an adult, I'm not the, hugging my mum and dad kind of person. Does that make sense? After my dad died, I really felt it. My brother really is. He's very touchy-feely. So he's hugging my mum every single day after work, and I'd come home and watch them hug and sit there and feel really crappy inside because I just couldn't. And it sounds really weak, but I couldn't. For whatever reason, with all the good intention in the world, couldn't do what he was doing. Has anyone ever felt that with somebody where you really want to express something and just, when it came to the crunch, when it came to the moment, power disappeared? Anyone experienced that before? Yeah. And so now, empowered after this phenomenal weekend course, right? I'm ready, and I go home, I'm like, "Mum, I love you." She's like, "What the hell?" And I give her this massive hug, and she's like, "What's going on?" And there's tears, and we talk, and we talk, and we talk. We talk about stuff that Indian kids don't talk to their mums about, right? And she's finding out about her son for the first time. All the stuff I get up to, the stuff that she's not supposed to know. I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. "Mum, you've got to know, you've got to know this, you've got to know this." Just giving it all to her. And she didn't judge any of it. She owned it all, she loved it all. Completely out there, right? For her world, like this is like, "Oh my God, you did that? You do that? Or what are you talking about?" But once I got all of that out of the way, it opens up a whole new level of connection to another human being. Does that make sense? So I'm all about that. I'm like, what is it going to take for human beings to just be human? And stop living in this self-confined box that we create of ourselves called personality. And letting go of all of that that looks good, that shows off, that fits in. Letting go of all of that and say, "You know what, this is who I am. Here's what I'm about. Here's what I stand for. What is it going to take for us to connect with each other and support each other in being just amazing human beings?" That's success. And people think, "Kalpesh, you're so lucky. with all, when they're talking about lucky, they're talking about the cars and the homes and the lifestyle. I'm like, you missed it. Like, even without all of that, that's just the toys. Is that making sense? That's just part. I'm not against any of that. I'm all about being the best version of you and having all the stuff that you want to experience and enjoy and have fun with. But when you end up in that box, the stuff ain't coming with you, right? But what is coming with you, not with you, but in that journey, is the people that are carrying you, the people that come and show up for your party, is the memories that you left behind, the footprint that you left on their hearts, and the conversations you had with them, the actual transformation that happened between you and them, that broke through the barriers that held you back. Is that making sense? So as you leave here tonight, I want to just leave you with that gift. And this is what I do. I just love empowering people to get in touch with that part of themselves that is able to be free in communication and be free in self-expression and leadership. You with me? And so if there's one gift you can give yourself tonight, make it a commitment to find out who you really are and then show up that way. And break down whatever it is you need to break down between where you are now and where you know you are inside. And take that journey one step at a time, one piece at a time. Transform yourself. You are not confined to who you think you are. You're not confined to the person sat in that seat. You're not confined to the clothes that you wear, the wardrobe that you carry, the makeup that you put on, the home that you live in, the cars that you drive, the job that you do. All of that stuff is not who you are. Who are you? Who are you that got forgotten along the way of doing all the stuff that you thought was expected of you? You got an education. Why? Because somebody else expected it of you most of the time, right? I don't meet many 15-year-olds that chose freely the education path that they took. If you ask most people, even at university, the degree they're doing, they still don't know what they want to do with their lives. That's the kind of society we've created, unfortunately. I'm all about shifting that. Imagine having schools where that's secondary. Maths, English, history, and all the rest of it comes after. Who are you? What's the message you've come here to share with the world? What's your self-expression? How do you want to be when you show up? Let's work on that stuff now while you're young. Because when you're young, we're so much easier. As we get older, we get more rigid and more fixed in how we perceive ourselves. That making sense? It's breaking that illusion. Don't be so fixed. Don't be so rigid. Be like Bruce Lee said, be free, be like water. Allow yourself to completely reinvent who you are, the way you show up, the way you turn out, and the way that you speak. I didn't used to speak like this. People from Forest Gate, they don't speak like this. Do you get me? Flat. You know what I'm saying? And they don't walk the way I walk. I can walk straight. When I was in East London, I had to walk like this. What's that all about, right? And I was doing all of that stuff in my mid-20s. I thought that's who I was. Until I discovered it was a ridiculous, bullshit conversations that I picked up throughout life, trying to fit in and be part of a society that was never meant to be me. And I said, okay, so who am I really? And then I started improving myself, improving my speech, my walk, my dress, the way that I show up, the way that I communicate, the way that I connect. Is that making sense? So that's all available to you. So embrace it, grab it with both hands, and put everything you've got into that, and everything else, make that secondary. Is that cool? Thank you so much. You've been amazing. And I'll pass it back to Michael.